Hey kids, Tito James here, once again taking awesome out of the box, and in this one we're taking a look at the newest budget phone from Realme, the Realme Narzo 20. This device costs 7,990 pesos, but if you buy it when it becomes available on Lazada on November 11, there's already a price cut of 500, so it will be 7,490. In this one, we're answering the question, is the Realme Narzo 20 ready for the Wild Rift? And other more popular titles on the Google Play Store for that matter. Let's get into it by first checking out the key specs of this device. Let's kick things off with the display. You're getting a 6.5-inch HD Plus mini drop display that utilizes an IPS LCD panel that gives you a pixel density of 270 pixels per inch. Picture quality is good all things considered, and you can still enjoy watching your favorite shows or videos on it and browsing through your socials. It's pretty much at par with most phones in this price point, and the only downside I've experienced so far is that it's a little hard to use when you're outdoors. Now, it's not too bad, it's still very usable, but it's something to note. Now, next up for the key specs is its processing package. Realme was very proud of this when we talked to them about this particular phone, and this is their first device to be armed with MediaTek's Helio G85 processor, which they paired with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of expandable storage. Now, in other regions, you can get this with more storage at 128GB, but for us here in the Philippines, this is the only configuration. Now, if you're into the numbers, here are the results of some synthetic benchmark tests we've run on the Narzo 20, and you are getting decent results out of this new budget-friendly device. It's definitely enough to use for going through your Facebook and Instagram feeds, messaging your friends and family, but we will see what it'll be like in terms of gaming in just a little bit. Of course, there are also the cameras on the Narzo 20. Now, it doesn't have to do with gaming, but you have a triple camera setup on the back with a 48-megapixel main camera at f1.8, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera, and a 2-megapixel macro lens. We're not here to talk about them, but here's a quick look at the few snaps we've taken so far. Lastly, let's talk about the battery of the Narzo 20. You're getting a 6,000 mAh battery with this device, which with moderate use can last me nearly 2 days. And actually guys, as of recording this video, I'm still running the battery drain test for the Narzo 20 in the next room. It's been going for 11 hours and it's still at 58%. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly device with really good battery life, then this is definitely a good option. Alright, recap over, but before we get to the gaming portion, I just want to tell you guys that there is a full review available on the website by our editor-at-large, John Nieves. So if you want to take a look at the Realme Narzo 20 as a whole, there's a link in the description down below. Now let's get to the game, starting off with one of my go-tos, NBA 2K20. For the settings, I used a mix of mostly medium and high with cloth simulation and depth of field turned off, which is what I highly recommend using if you play NBA 2K20. Now let's check out some gameplay. Now we managed an average of 59 frames per second on this title, which honestly kind of surprised me. There were a few drops here and there, but nothing game-breaking. It usually happens when you're coming in for a new quarter or from a timeout, but other than that, it was very smooth. Now let's move on to the next game, which is something for you FPS fans out there, Call of Duty Mobile. Unfortunately, for this game, you're not getting so much wiggle room in terms of graphics, which is capped at medium, but let's look at some gameplay first before we get into the metrics. The results for COD Mobile were a bit of a mixed bag. For one, we did get a very decent average out of our frame rates, which were measured at 56.1, but you do get more drops here and there, which could be costly in a firefight. Again, nothing too bad, and the game is still very much playable, but I do have to mention that. Now on to what probably made you click on this video in the first place. You're here to see if the Narzo 20 is ready for the Wild Rift. So let's get into it. For Wild Rift, settings were capped at high definition, and that's exactly what we used, and yes, with the 60 FPS option enabled as well. Here's some gameplay, but I do suck because I don't play tank. Or I just suck. You decide. So to answer your question, yes, the Narzo 20 is ready to take on the Wild Rift with an average of 59 frames per second, and it was incredibly stable as well. Big team fights weren't a problem for it, and they were pretty much a problem for me because, again, I'm not very good at this game, but for the phone, it wasn't an issue at all. So again guys, if you're looking for a phone around 8,000 pesos that can play League of Legends Wild Rift really smoothly, the Narzo 20 is definitely a good option. Now let's get into one of the most popular games right now, Genshin Impact. Now on this title, we had it at the lowest preset with motion blur turned off to smoothen out the graphics even more, but we did try to run it without the 30 FPS cap. Here's a bit of gameplay. To be honest, this was a little rough for the Narzo 20 to run, but we did get an average of 31 frames per second, but there were a lot of frame rate drops. As you could probably tell, I'm also early on in this game, so I'm not sure how busy things get later on. My best recommendation if you are eyeing this phone and you want to play Genshin Impact is to put that hard cap for the frame rates at 30 to get the best results possible. And actually, that's pretty much it for the games. If you're curious about the temperatures, I recorded about 42 degrees at the highest point, but I do have to note that I game in short spurts and never when the phone is charging, so it might depend on your use. But for me, it definitely wasn't a problem. Again, the highest I recorded was 42 degrees. So just to do a bit of a recap, here are all the averages that we got on all the games that we tested on the Narzo 20. Definitely, if you're looking to play League of Legends Wild Rift, this phone can handle it and will get you through those big team clashes without any issues. Again guys, the price for the Narzo 20 is 7,990 pesos, but if you manage to get it during November 11 when it first gets released, it's 500 pesos off, so 7,490. But that's pretty much it for this one. Thank you so much for dropping by and spending a few minutes with me. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you know when our next videos come up. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll try my best to get to them as soon as I can. For all the latest tech news and gadget reviews, head to unbox.ph, plus follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. My name is Tito James. Peace, God bless. See you guys next time, and of course, stay safe.